Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into something fascinating, finding that inner peace, that tranquility.
hmm And we're using insights from Rabbi Itamar Schwartz.
Exactly. Specifically, how to calm our senses. It's sort of a prep step for depicted, right? That practice of seclusion, contemplation.
Yeah, that's the one. We've got these excerpts from a YouTube video transcript, basically, where Rabbi Schwartz just lays out these methods for sensory stillness.
Okay, great. So you shared these sources, and our goal here for you listening is really to pull out the practical stuff, techniques you can actually use.
Right, to quiet things down, mind and senses, even when life's chaotic.
Yeah, it's not necessarily about needing like hours locked away for formal hippodet, more about finding those little pockets of calm,
Yeah.
focused awareness during the day.
Exactly, little moments.
Okay, so let's get into it. Where does Rabbi Schwartz begin? What's the foundation?
He starts with the external senses. First up is touch, mishush.
Okay.
And he really emphasizes just how important your physical environment is. Comfort is key for stillness.
Right, like what you're actually sitting on. He mentions chairs, cushions, even the upholstery.
Yeah, whatever feels pleasant, supportive. It's about being mindful of that contact.
And not just what you sit on, but how you sit, posture, finding what calms you.
Exactly. And he adds this interesting bit that sometimes even just shifting your position a little can help you stay comfortable, stay calm.
So it's less about having the perfect meditation cushion, more about the intention, right? Making your physical space work for you, not against you, that mind-body connection.
Definitely. Then he moves to taste, tum.
Taste. Okay, how does that work for calming?
It's subtle. His advice is basically to taste something, well, just slightly pleasant. Helps calm the soul, he says.
But he stresses little but good taste. Yeah, like not a big meal.
No. Not enough to cause heaviness or distraction, just a delicate flavor. Think of it as a tiny anchor to peace, a little connection.
A little taste, a big effect, potentially. Okay, makes sense. What's next?
Smell. Using pleasant scents to foster that inner peace.
Okay, and here, personal preference is huge, I imagine.
Absolutely. He points that out. What you find calming is unique. Ideally, he suggests scents tied to holiness, maybe like certain ritual spices.
Right, if that resonates.
But if not, the key is subtle and delicate. Not overpowering perfumes that might, arouse the senses instead of calming them.
That makes sense. You want calm, not excitement. And he talks about how we smell, too, doesn't he? There are two ways.
Yes, this is fascinating. He distinguishes between just sort of external appreciation, noticing a nice smell around you, and internal inhalation.
Internal inhalation, so like actively breathing it in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gently, deeply. Not forcing it, but deliberately drawing the scent inwards, focusing on it reaching deeper levels within you.
So it's more than just, oh, that smells nice. It's an active practice.
Right. Training the soul, he calls it, to let that scent penetrate more deeply. He even touches on breathing in light or pure air.
Or combining breath with, like, holy thoughts, verses.
Like, Kol Hanashama Tehalel. Let every soul praise God. The idea being you're kind of purifying the breath itself by focusing the mind.
Interesting. Now, he knows there are other breathing techniques out there, but his focus here is on these specific concepts from his tradition.
Precisely. So after smell, we get to hearing shma.
Hearing. Okay, so music. Sounds.
Yeah, but he emphasizes choosing melodies that really resonate deeply. Create an inner connection, not just something superficial you bob your head to.
So deeper, quieter melodies are generally better for calm?
Usually, yes, to penetrate inwards. But he does acknowledge if you're feeling really restless, sometimes something a bit louder might be needed initially, like a bridge away from external noise.
A transition tool.
Yeah. The whole process is about gradually training your hearing, letting it access deeper levels, consciousness, heart, feeling, as he puts it.
Open the heart to the sound.
Yeah.
Letting it sink in over time.
Exactly. He also mentions maybe listening to inspiring talks, but with a big but.
The caveat. Let me guess. It shouldn't just stimulate the brain.
You got it. It needs to bring calm, not just intellectual excitement that pulls you out of that quiet space. So for you listening, it's about finding sounds that soothe, not just interest you.
Makes sense. Okay, that's 4 senses. What about sight? Rhea.
Right, the external aspect first. He suggests the environment for stillness should ideally offer visual spaciousness, pleasantness, something that fosters peace.
Like a forest, an open field, that kind of thing.
Exactly, or even just looking out a window at a view like that, if you're inside. He contrasts a narrow, confined view with, like, a broad horizon that feeling of release it gives the soul.
I get that feeling of openness. What if you don't have a great view?
Then he suggests using calming pictures or images, but preferably simple, still objects, not electronic screens.
Right, screens can be jarring, distracting, less connection.
Yeah. He also mentions small things, like a candle flame can be visually calming.
Oh, nice, like a focal point.
And he notes that pictures of holy figures can work for some, but for others, it might just trigger thoughts instead of stillness. It's very individual.
Okay, so that covers the external world through our senses. But you mentioned he goes deeper.
Yes. Now we move from the external to the internal, to the power of inner vision, dimion, imagination.
Imagination. That sounds powerful, maybe even tricky.
It is, and he makes a key point. For most people, the other senses are mainly external experiences, but inner vision. That's an internal sense we can often access more readily.
Interesting distinction.
But he flags two really important things up front about using imagination this way.
Okay, what are they?
First, it's a big topic on its own. And second, this technique is really best for people who are already pretty stable, calm, and self-aware.
Why is that?
Because for others, it could actually be, disconnecting, maybe confusing. So you really need to know yourself before diving into this one.
Sure.
Personal reflection is crucial.
Got it. And we're talking specifically about using imagination just for that initial calming phase, right? Before deeper stillness.
Exactly. Not the whole wide world of imagination techniques, just for this prep stage.
So how does he suggest we use it? What's the method?
The main way is to recall past experiences, moments where you felt genuinely calm.
Genuinely calm, not just excited or happy.
Right. True peace. He specifically says, maybe not something like a wedding, which has intense excitement. Think more. Quiet contentment.
Okay. And then what? Just think about it.
More than that. He says to mentally reconstruct the moment. Clearly, orderly.
Clearly and orderly. Why is that so important?
Because he warns against a mixed and confused imagination. That could actually be harmful, stir things up negatively. You want a clear imagination.
So it's about systematically recreating the memory, building a structured mental image.
Precisely. And when you need that calm, you return to that specific, clear, peaceful mental image. He really hammers home that word clear.
Okay. Does he talk about making up new calm scenarios?
He mentions it briefly, but says recalling genuine past moments is preferred and safer. It connects you to your actual experience, what's already stored in you.
Right, not just inventing stuff that might feel disconnected from reality or how you're actually feeling inside.
Exactly. It's about recalling what's in your memory. Using imagination this way needs inner order, awareness, recognizing its limits.
So it shouldn't be impulsive. Needs thought, balance, control, stability. Those are key.
Those are the words, yeah, because it can stir things up if you're not careful.
Okay, so we've got the 5 external senses plus this inner vision technique. That's 6 aspects. Do we need to do all 6 every time?
No, generally not. Rabbi Schwartz points that out. It's not usually necessary.
Phew, okay. That sounds more manageable.
Right. He says people will naturally find certain senses work better for them. We all kind of gravitate towards what clicks.
So self-awareness is key again. Figuring out your personal calming toolkit.
Totally. Identifying what best calms your soul. And he's just checking in with yourself periodically, too, because what works might change as your inner state changes.
Good point. So once you find your calming keys, you might just use 1 or 2 sometime.
Exactly. Whatever feels right in that moment to bring you towards balance.
But knowing how much or how to engage takes wisdom.
Yeah, he uses words like wisdom, inner understanding, even divine assistance. Knowing how to use these tools effectively to find that calm equilibrium.
And no strict rules on timing or order. Like 5 minutes of smell, then 10 of sound.
And nope, very personal. It requires that discernment, that inner guidance he talks about.
Okay. And it's crucial to remember the purpose of all this, right?
Absolutely. He stresses this. These techniques are preparation. They're not the end goal. The goal is the deeper inner work, the hippopotat.
Right. It's easy to want to jump straight into the deep stuff of introspection, prayer.
But he argues this gradual approach, starting with calming the senses, is actually more effective long-term.
Like prepping the soil before planting?
Beautiful analogy. And yeah, that's exactly it. Building that foundation. It might seem longer, starting from the outside and moving in.
But it creates something solid, lasting.
Mm-hmm. Building the soul correctly, he says. Layer by layer. It's not a quick fix. It's for genuine, sustainable inner development.
Okay. Now, he also tackled some specific listener questions in the source, which is helpful. Like, what about praying beforehand?
Simple advice there. Pray in your own language, according to your own spiritual level. Keep it authentic.
And what if trying to recall a peaceful memory brings up unpleasant stuff too? Mixed feelings.
He suggests focusing on memories that are, predominantly pleasant. Try to find ones where the calm outweighs any negativity.
Okay. There was also a question about timing, night versus day, darkness versus visual input.
Yeah, interestingly, he talks about the soul having these forces, one for awakening or expansion, often associated with light, and one for inner contraction, maybe linked to darkness.
So what's the recommendation?
A common approach he suggests is maybe starting with some visual focus,
Yeah.
and then gradually moving towards darkness, dimming lights, or closing your eyes, if that feels okay.
If it's comfortable. Because closing eyes can cause tension for some people.
Exactly. He acknowledges that. But he also mentions that classical texts do talk about the value of stillness in darkness.
Okay. And sound. Music, nature sounds, what's allowed.
Basically, any sound that you find calming is okay.
Simple enough.
Though he adds, preferably more holy sounds if possible.
Which could mean different things, but generally sounds used in spiritual practice. Or maybe just sounds with positive associations.
Probably along those lines. The main thing is what works for you. He specifically calls out the sound of natural flowing water as calming.
Ah, yeah, that's a classic.
And again, music taste varies wildly. Use what resonates, what doesn't feel negative. And if it's human-made music, maybe consider the intention behind it. Music made with pure intentions, perhaps.
Right, makes sense. Someone also asked how this structured approach connects to earlier, maybe more general advice he gave.
Good question. He clarifies, this builds on those ideas, but gives more structure. It's about identifying which of these 6 aspects work for you and using them systematically, not just random attempts. Requires that self-exploration. It's more defined now.
Okay. What about the challenge of finding stillness when things are noisy or crowded, like real life?
Yeah, the perennial challenge. He acknowledges it's tough and highlights the need to actively seek out quiet spaces.
But what if that takes a lot of effort, getting to a park, etc.?
You have to balance the effort with the benefit, he suggests. Maybe a park or a quieter outdoor spot is worth it if home is pure chaos. Ideally, though, finding a dedicated quiet space for regular practice is best.
So maybe trying a portable technique like a scent on your wrist for the commute, but aiming for real quiet time when possible.
Something like that. It's about finding what's feasible, but also prioritizing that dedicated space when you can. Balancing ideals with reality, like childcare needs, etc.
And he mentioned something about home versus outside, particularly for women.
Yes, he noted that traditionally for women, the focus might lean more towards internal work within the home, respecting boundaries of modesty. External trips purely for stillness were mentioned with a degree of caution.
Okay. Another specific tool, looking at holy letters or words, verses.
He says, well, if just looking at the shapes brings you calm, fine, use it as a tool.
But there's a but coming.
But if it leads you to think about the meaning, to intellectually engage, then you've shifted gears. You're out of pure sensory stillness and into a different kind of contemplation.
So the goal here isn't study, it's just calming the senses first.
Exactly. He notes, for very few, maybe the letters themselves feel holy and calming, but for most, reading activates the mind. Understanding the meaning isn't the goal of this initial stage.
Even something like Psalms.
Psalms are powerful, but often evoke emotion, connection, maybe even stirring things up, rather than that detached quietude sensory stillness aims for initially. Disconnecting from stimuli is the first step.
Got it. Last question addressed was about doing versus not doing. He initially suggested gentle activities, but now.
Right. The initial suggestions were like an entry point, using UN. But the goal now, once you've used these techniques to find some calm, is to progress towards not doing.
Just being still.
Exactly. Entering that state of hippodadep, simply being still, no active engagement, getting accustomed to quietude without needing to do anything.
And quieting thoughts and feelings. Is that part of this?
That's the next level, really.
Yeah.
A more advanced practice beyond this initial sensory focus. What he's outlining here is more accessible, a starting point for a wider range of people.
Okay, wow. That's a lot to unpack, but really practical. Let's try and summarize.
Yeah, so we've really taken a deep dive into Rabbi Schwartz's ideas on finding inner peace through the senses.
We looked at intentionally engaging each sense, touch, taste, smell.
Including that difference between just noticing a smell and actively mindfully breathing it in.
Right, and hearing and sight, both the external view and using clear, calm memories internally.
And the big takeaway is how personal it all is. Self-awareness is everything, finding what works for you.
Yeah, And our mission here was really to pull out those actionable steps, things you can actually try, drawn from this wisdom tradition, to find those moments of peace in a busy life.
Definitely.
So maybe a final thought for you, listening, is saying about consciously engaging one sense, just one, more intentionally. How might that shift things for you, even just for a moment?
Could it create just a little pocket of calm in your day? Which sense feels like the easiest place to start for you? Maybe just noticing the feeling of your chair or savoring one sip of tea.
Worth exploring. We definitely encourage you to reflect on these ideas, maybe explore hip Buddha more if it resonates. Perhaps jot down what sensory things seem to calm you down.
Yeah, keep track. See what works.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.